All right, everyone, we got a good one on Top 5 tonight. We're doing the Top 5 Kiss songs with the legend himself, not that guy. Mr. Anton Fig will be here, baby.
Welcome to Top 5 with Joey Cassata. Starring Joey Cassata.
Team Jesus, my friend. No! Am I walking around, Park?
Co-starring Ernie Palooza. And the Doctor, Tommy Snyder.
Goddamn.
Now here's your host, Joey Cassata.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Top 5. I'm your host, Joey Cassata, and today we got with us...
I'm Joe.
That's Joe Polo from Podcast Rock City, and introducing the legend himself, Mr. Anton Fig. How are you, Anton?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Again, thanks so much for being here. It's an honor. Obviously, we're big fans, big fan of your work throughout your Kiss years, your Ace years, of course. But I'd love to start with the present. I know you did some tracks on the new Ace record, 10,000 Volts. I did as well. I know we were back and forth via email discussing a little bit of that stuff. How did you start? How did you get hooked back up with Ace to do some of the new tracks on the new record?
I think he just texted me, or Steve just texted me and asked me if I would play on a song, which was the 10,000 Volts song. And then after I played on that, then I said, "Would you play on a couple more?" So, yeah.
Of course. I mean, he heard what you did on 10,000 Volts and was blown away as always.
Well, the interesting thing was that when I played on it, it reminded me very much of like the first record, which is like a really special record for me. And it was weird. I felt like kind of transported back to that time. It felt exactly the same. So, I thought it was cool, and I really liked it, and I actually liked the whole record. Your playing included, and all the other drummers and stuff. It all sounds great, but it felt like an old Ace record to me, which what I really liked.
I definitely think that was a conscious choice between Ace and Steve. When they started writing the record, they wanted to get back to not only some old school Ace, that 78 solo album, but they wanted to, have every track on the record be great. And I think that 78 solo record really holds up to today. Every track on that record is a standout.
I wrote to Eddie Kramer, I wrote to Ace. I said, man, this record's fantastic.
It really still sounds fresh after all the years. Obviously, the songs hold the test of time, but the production on it as well, you hit it right on the head with Eddie Kramer. I think it still holds up to today. There's a debate always with Kiss fans. Kiss fans always debate which is the best solo album between Ace's and Paul's. And mine is a no-brainer that Ace's is the best. And there's really two reasons. I think the songs are just as good as Paul's songs, but the production on the Ace 78 record, and then, of course, your drumming, I really think, takes it to that next level.
Yeah, well, it was just the way that I got to that record was I had a band in the 80s called Spider, which was a really cool band, and it didn't quite make it, although we did have a song in the top 40 and that. But anyway, at one stage, the bass player, we were auditioning bass players, and this Larry Russell auditioned, and he wasn't quite right for us, but he was cool, and he said, I got a friend Ace who is looking for a drummer for his record, and I actually didn't know that much about Kiss even, and so I said fine, and I went up there and I played a bunch of songs with him. I remember even asking him, "Are you the rhythm guitarist or the lead guitarist?" Really didn't know. And then a little while later, he asked me to come up and do another round of demos. But the reason I'm telling you this is because when we recorded Rip It Out, I played it, and then he said to me, "No, I want you to play what you played on the demo." And he played that to me. And that, I just played it off the top of my head when we recorded it. And so he said, "No, I want you to copy those fills that you did." And the reason I'm telling you that is because when we did it, Eddie Kramer said, you need to double the whole drum solo. So the solo from the snare thing in the beginning to the 4 breaks is all doubled, except that at the last one, when I go around the toms this way, I went the other way. But
wow,
yeah, so it was cool.
How hard? I mean, obviously, me being a drummer too, how difficult was it to double that?
No, it wasn't hard. I mean, there's a few. It makes it wider because there's flams and stuff.
Little separation.
I don't think people perceive it as like it just stands out. It has. Eddie did a lot of things that just made stuff stand out without you really knowing that's what happened.
I mean, that drum break in Rip It Out is obviously one of the most iconic drum breaks in obviously history for sure. Every drummer ever growing up, me included, that was one of my go-tos, trying to learn that drum break. And it took, obviously took years of practice to get that down.
Yeah, it came out good. I mean, I am proud of it, and it was really nice. But
that leads into, so one of the new tracks on the new record, Fighting for Life. So I had done the original demo, and in my brain, I just had the stuff that Steve gave me with his rhythm guitar and stuff, and the kind of the music. I felt it just as like, I did it more like an AC/DC groove, like a Thunderstruck, just a very simplistic, straight driving groove. And then, when I had heard that you tracked the final version of it, I just did the demo. It really, you really sounded like you tracked Rip It Out Part 2. It sounds, it's that same feel with the double snare in the intro. It just has the same feel and electricity that Rip It Out have. How did you come up with that? Was it a guidance by Steve and Ace, or did you just said, you know what, let's go Rip It Out Part 2 here?
Yeah, well, first of all, I did all those tracks at home, by myself. So they weren't around. They sent it to me, and I just played the 3 songs I played on just however I wanted to. But when I heard the song, I started to write on the tom, and then I thought, oh, this is cool, and do the double thing like Rip It Out. And I sort of thought, like, this works in the song, but it also makes a link back to, as you heard, I'm glad you heard that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Shining
again, that's why I'm so glad. It's one of my favorite tracks if not my favorite track on the record. You really made it come to life. My demo is it's okay, but it's simplistic. You made it. You Anton it up, and it just became a completely different song. Incredible.
Thanks,
Joe.
I wanted to ask you about Dynasty. So when you get a phone call like that, Peter Criss is in the band, you get a phone call that says, "Hey, we want you to play drums on the new Kiss record." I mean, what does that feel like? Obviously, by then you've been making your rounds with, whether it be being friends with Ace and your own bands, but you get a chance to play on this Kiss album. What was that like?
Well, I can't quite remember the call or even how it actually happened, but I know that based on how well Ace's record did, they asked me to play on it. And again, to their credit, they didn't really tell me how to play it. They just let me do whatever I wanted to do. But they did, now their manager, Bullet Coin, also managed Spider, my band. So, I was sort of in the fold. But I remember them saying to me, we would like you to do this, but you can't tell anybody. And I don't know what it is about those times. It was like a handshake deal. You can't, and I never told anybody, for like 20 years until I think Gene put it in his book, and Dynasty came out with an remastered version that had my name on it. And then I thought, well, if they're talking about it, then I can talk about it. But aside from like a really very close, like the band, and like very few people that I trusted that wouldn't say anything, I didn't say anything to anybody. Like nowadays, you can't keep a secret at all. It's crazy. It was a different time.
Yeah. It's funny because Joey and I were talking about this. I Was Made for Loving You just surpassed 1 billion plays.
Wow.
Online. And what I was asking him was, obviously this song had commercial success. How was it like if you were out with some friends and it came on the radio and you couldn't go, that's me.
Yeah.
I'm on that song,
Yeah. Well, I can now. So
yeah. So you really kept it a secret. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to honor my commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we go any further, I wanted to point out something for you guys that are watching and listening. There, Anton has a website. If you want to go and check that out, that would be awesome. There is a shop and everything where you can buy drum heads and sticks. And if you're a drummer using Anton, I'm going to tell you right now, I have a pair of your sticks that Sonny from our show bought me when you were at the Indianapolis Kiss Expo. And I have them sitting. I'm not a drummer. I can play the drums, but I'm not a drummer. Mm. Anyway, so you guys check that out, the Anton Fig official website. Go on there, pick up some sticks if you're a drummer. Get a drum head. It's pretty awesome. One thing.
Sorry, yes, I want to let me say one thing, that I have a record, a CD that I did, and I have lots of different groups of people on each song. And on one of the songs is Ace. He plays a great solo, and Richie Scarlett and Sebastian Bach and myself, the four of us on one song.
And that's available on your website.
Yeah.
What's the name of that song?
I think on Spotify as well, but you can buy if you want to buy the record.
What's the name of that song you guys are all on?
It's called Know Where You Go.
amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I found this article right here, and I wanted to read just a little part of it. It's this is about when this is the big claim that we hear all the time. It says, "I suggested we hire Anton as a drummer," explains Ace and Paul and Gene. I actually talked them into it. They agreed to have Anton be the new drummer. And this was in the studio, like in the afternoon. And I ran over to Anton's house and said, "You're not going to believe this, but you're the new drummer in Kiss." So he couldn't believe it. You know, here we are, one of the biggest groups in the world. He's the new drummer. And within 24 hours, Paul and Gene changed their minds, and like they do everything. Well, that was it. So do you remember that? Is that really how it went down?
I remember it a little bit differently.
Okay.
And I have a lousy memory, but the way that I don't want to start anything, but the way that I remember was I went out for dinner with Ace, and he said to me, you know, "Do you want to play in the band?" And at that time, I had Spider, and we had a song that was at 35 in the charts and moving up, and so I had my own band in the top 40. And I said, "Yeah, I think so, but I need to think about it for a moment, you know." And then, and I wasn't sure that I was going to do it. And then Gene and Paul felt that Ace and I would be too much of a camp and didn't really want that because they already had that with Peter and Ace. And so it was like kind of, they said no, but I wasn't really going to necessarily do it anyway. So, you know,
Interesting.
that's but I don't want to start anything. And I like,
no.
I like Ace's story better than mine.
But obviously, you and Ace were already very close at this point. We must be talking right around, you know, Unmasked time. You had already done Ace's record. You'd done Dynasty. You guys were already very friendly at this point. So I would assume Gene and Paul probably had a little bit of, and I read Ace's book, and I know some of the fun times you and him have had over the years. So you think they had a point worried about you and Ace being, you know, the other half of Kiss?
I don't know if it would have gone like that necessarily, but, you know, I was definitely more friendly with Ace than I was. You know, Ace and I were buddies, you know.
Right.
You know, so, you know, but it's fine. It all worked out fine.
Of course.
Yeah.
So in that transition from Dynasty, and then you get the call, you know, Dynasty is a big success. I Was Made for Loving You is a worldwide hit. They asked you to do Unmasked, the next record, right? So how did you approach that? Was it really just basically the same exact situation you had brought up, that they never asked you to play any different on the two records? And obviously, you know, your style is way, way different than Peter's. And it was noticeable, even to me as a kid, it was noticeable that it was a different drummer on the records. And, you know, nothing, not to take anything from Peter or anyone, but it's different. You're a different drummer, different styles. It's so surprising. And with all the secrecy, with the makeup, with, you know, telling you not to tell anyone about playing on the records. It's so crazy that they didn't approach, or even Vinnie Poncia, the producer, saying to you, "Hey, maybe you should play it a little bit more like Peter." That none of that ever came up, even going into Unmasked.
Not that I remember. You know, I mean, look, I'm not saying they didn't say anything. You know, They might have been nudged here and there, but I don't really remember much of that. And, you know, I didn't really get involved. At that point, I knew they were a huge band and all that. But whatever they did, I really did not try and insert myself or be involved. I actually loved the band with Peter. You know, I think it had a real charm and sounded great. But, I mean, if I was going to be asked to do it, I was going to do it for sure. And I loved having that opportunity. It was absolutely great. But I didn't get involved with the band. And then, you know, Vinny was the music kind of went in a slightly different direction anyway, especially on Unmasked. So, you know, it was probably required slightly different kind of drumming. You know, I don't know.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It was definitely a poppier record, and the stuff you played, especially on Unmasked, really fit those songs. I think they made them become a different band at that point. They're very pop oriented, very song oriented. The feels that you were doing, I think it complemented the music perfectly.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, you know what?
I think, yeah.
I hadn't listened to these records for decades. And I was on tour in March. I was playing with this guy, Oznoy, who's a fantastic jazz, rock kind of jazz, electric guitarist, and this organ player, Brian Charette, who's a jazz guy. And we get in the van to drive to the next town because it's like a sort of like a jazz tour. And he said, and it turns out that he's a huge Kiss freak, and his favorite song is Shandy. And so every drive, every day, the first thing we put on was Shandy. I got to hear the song over and over and over. Then I was starting to go, man, this is fucking great. You know, it sounds really nice. I got to absolutely love the song. It's cool. Everything about it is cool.
Yeah, that record is terrific.
Yeah.
That record is terrific. You know, one of the things that we wanted to ask you was, you know, obviously you were, I guess they call it the ghost drummer on Dynasty and Unmasked. Are there other records out there that you still can't talk about the fact that you played drums on them? Like an Aerosmith record or something?
Yeah, no, I never did that. But, you know, there have been a few other things that I've played on, uncredited. But, you know, I always say to the band, you know, if it happens, you know, try and play with your guy. You know, I think it's better for the band. But if they are adamant that they want me on a song or something like that, then, you know, I'm going to do it.
Of course,
I'm not going to take a job away from anybody.
Right, of course. Yeah. But there's no, you know, hidden AC/DC tracks with you, or that you're still not allowed to talk about.
I wish. Yeah. But I mean, if there was, I wouldn't be able to talk about it.
Right, of course.
Yeah. Yes. You know, one of the things that you said about recording that first solo album with Ace that I never heard anybody say, which you said that there was some like an innocence about it. And in the fact that you said that, really, it kind of like shot me out of my body for a second to think about that. And it's very true. It is, it's almost like everybody that played on that record obviously was professional musicians, but there's something very just rock and roll about it, if that makes sense. Well,
you know, for me, it was the first time in the world of like really playing with a big, you know, superstar kind of person. But he was stepping out of his comfort zone doing a solo thing. So it was new for him. And for me, it was new being in this world, you know, and I grew up a sort of rock drummer, but when I came to America, I was completely into jazz for about 5 or 6 years, totally. And that's all I played. But then I came to New York and I started to get back into rock. And so this was like, okay, this is like, I understand this really well. So it was like innocent for me. It was like a whole new experience. And it was new for Ace because even though he had much more been in that world, he was on his own. So, you know, that's why I thought it was innocent. No,
I think it's you hit it right on the nose. I think it's just a straight ahead. It's not an overthought record. I don't think he overthought things and was questioning his own abilities. And he just went and recorded to the best of his ability, and his songs, everything was felt. It just feels very organic, the whole record.
Well, first of all, there was no clicks, in those days, and there were no samples. And, although the samples sound great and strong and they quantize things and all that, that way you're just playing straight, and the sounds, even though Eddie made a great sound, but it's just the acoustic sounds of everything.
Right.
And I think that gives it a certain charm. And then when we did the record, we did it up at the Colgate Mansion in Connecticut, and Eddie was outside in a remote truck, and I was on the stairwell going up to the upstairs, and Ace sat next to me, and his guitar amp was in another room. And that's how we recorded the record.
It's great.
The two of
Wow.
us,
That's amazing. Like, to get that kind of I can picture it in my head. Obviously, I've never been in the house, but I've heard of albums being recorded in these remote places where there was Twisted Sister, and We're Not Going to Take It. The drum kit I heard was in a bathroom, and that's how you get that natural reverb. This is really, really cool.
Yeah.
So after that, so obviously, you do all those Kiss records. Then a couple years later, Ace is gone from Kiss. He approaches you to start Frehley's Comet. How does the origin of that happen?
I don't fully remember. I know that he was going to do his own project, and so I was pretty much, natural. I was hanging around with him, and so he just said, "I'm going to do it," But soon after he got that, I got the Letterman show.
Right.
And so I couldn't go on tour with him. But I did end up doing one tour. Or maybe it was more than one, and I got to do a bunch of the records. But I know the second record that Jamie did, I didn't play on because he wanted to have the same band that did the record go out live.
Oh, is that the reason why you didn't do the second record?
Yeah.
Wow. And how about
this? Back again. After that, I did a bunch after that.
Right. You did Trouble Walking again after that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This one has Anton on the drums.
Yeah.
Live plus
so
one.
That was, I think I was either just not on the show, or I was on the show and I was able to get away for a few weeks to go and do that.
Right. And how about just the recording process? You mentioned you talked a lot about the 78 process. How was the process for the first Frehley's Comet record? Did you go back to that same mansion? Was it the same process with Eddie Kramer?
No. Let's see. What record was Into the Night on?
That was the
first one.
We were at the power station recording that song. Because I
Okay.
remember recording that song. And that was, we were all kind of playing. Because I remember we did a bunch of takes, and we sort of got it, and then we kept going. So
I'm so glad you brought up that song, because I do want to talk later about maybe your top 5 drum tracks you've recorded over the years with them. But Into the Night, people don't think of it as a monster drum song, but it always felt that one was always a standout to me. It almost had that Rosanna type shuffle to it. Was that a conscious thing going in?
No, I don't think so. I think I just played it, my version of a shuffle. I have to listen to it again, actually. I haven't listened to it for a long time, but so thanks. But I'm going to go listen to it.
Oh, it has that same feel. It's almost like the same tempo as Rosanna, too. I don't know how many of the ghost notes and stuff you're doing on the snare, but it's that same hi-hat shuffle. It's not only incredible, but so hard to duplicate.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. You know what? I learned the Rosanna Shuffle thing, and it's kind of hard too. It's quite fast, and yeah, it takes a little bit of.
Yeah, it all came from that Fool in the Rain,
Yeah,
Purdy, all that stuff,
it's
right?
also like the Bernard Purdy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm a guitar player. You guys are drummers. I did want to ask you, what started you off on the drums? What made you go, that's what I want to do?
I just, I was playing when I was 4 on pots and pans, and I had a little kit when I was 5. It wasn't like anybody told me to play drums. I just gravitated towards them, and I loved the sound of the drums. I never made a decision to play.
So it wasn't like Gene Simmons says, I saw the Beatles on TV and I was like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
You were a Beatles fan?
I was, but by then I was playing, a lot already.
Right, yeah.
I loved the whole English invasion stuff. It was,
yeah,
that was like what I kind of grew up on.
The reason why I asked you that was because I sent Joey on Letterman. You did a skit with Ringo where he was getting makeup done or something like that, and you walked in and talked with him. Yeah. And I said, I told him, I wonder if they. I remember in the skit, Ringo's like, I haven't seen you since we were kids.
Yeah.
And that was cool.
That's all written for us.
Sure. Yeah. But obviously being in the in the Letterman band, and then walking in and there's Ringo, and they've got you doing a skit, with Ringo must have been pretty cool.
Oh, it was great. Absolutely. One time I went to a Ringo All-Star band thing I think it was at Jones Beach, and it was Zach was playing and Keltner, I think, and Zach said to me, go play. And I went, but they didn't tell Ringo. So Ringo's up there singing, and he turns around and he sees me, and I see him like shaking.
That's wonderful, though.
Yeah. Huh?
What song did you play?
Oh, I can't remember. Yeah.
So a little tie-in. So with the Frehley's Comet stuff. So when you were demoing, did you do a lot of those early demos with Ace for the Frehley's Comet record?
So I wanted to tell you that. What was the song? Back in My Arms.
Right. That's my next question. Right. So, is that you on the demo?
I might have played on the demo of that because I was in the band when Arthur Stead was in the band, and we did a lot of. Ace was living in Wilton, Connecticut, and he had a big studio in his house, and we did a lot of stuff there. And I'm pretty sure that was from that time, and I do remember the song. So I don't know if I was playing on it, but it's highly likely.
Yeah, it's such a great song. We were so, I was honored to play the track on it for the Ace's new record.
Time has never gone so slowly, and baby, time has really taken its toll. Anyone can see that I have never been so lonely, and all the years gone by will never hide the lines. Does it show on me? I can't forget the things you said, and nothing takes away my memories. I loved you then, I love you now. I'm always dreaming of the day I hear you say you're coming back into my arms again, for everyone to see. Looking at you and looking at me, can this really be?
It's one of those hidden gem demos that were lost over the years that all the Kiss fan base and the Ace fan base has been demanding that Ace do over the years. So it was a big deal that he wind up redoing it.
Yeah. Well, you played on, I think, 2 of the like poppy songs on the new record.
Yeah.
That one and Constantly Cute as well. But, I like Ace has got a side to him that's sort of like poppy in a way, like reminds me of the Who poppy kind of stuff, and I really like that side of him. You know,
I agree. I
so
agree. I think Ace shot, especially the early Frehley's Comet stuff. There was a lot of keyboards in that stuff. He was very pop oriented back then. And I think his pop sensibilities are just always on point. His songs on Unmasked, Talk to Me and Two Sides of
Torpedo
the
Girl.
They're so poppy and just singable and great melodies and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I listened to Hard Times the other day. Actually, just to refresh my memory in that. And, that's really nice. And I remember doing the demo with him of that song. And I guess at that point, there was, the band was a little, so they, Ace kind of, brought in his songs. Well, he didn't write them, he did his thing and brought them in.
Right.
Yeah.
But you did the demos for him, even with the Dynasty stuff like Hard Times. So Hard Times is such a unique pattern, those quadruplets and stuff you're doing all over the place. How did you, I know it's hard to remember back then, but how did you come up with that stuff for that song?
I don't know, but I do know that it's like to get it like really accurate all the time, and then like in those days, you couldn't just punch a full in. I mean, you could, but it was a big deal.
You had to,
the whole take and all that stuff. So it was like a double bass thing. I had to use 2 feet, and I can't remember if it was a double pedal or if I had 2 bass drums. But
oh, is that done with a double pedal? I always tried to duplicate it using one. Is that double bass?
I think it's like left, right, left on the feet, right.
Gotcha.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we can hear it. Yeah.
When I recall days in the city, and I think back, oh what a pity, remembering how it wasn't pretty, everyday life in the city. Out in the street, we had to take it, with friends around, we couldn't fake it, luck wasn't there, we had to make it, hanging out down in the city. The hard times are dead and gone, but the hard times have made me strong, and the hard times have made me see that the hard times ain't where I wanna be.
I think that's what
pretty
we
cool.
were. I think that's what it was. Yeah.
That's really
great.
cool. That's
Yeah.
so great. So one thing also that you mentioned when you were talking about the first solo album was you kind of hinted to the fact that Ace might have been thinking that the rest of the band, when doing that record, didn't have a whole lot of confidence in him to do the album that he did. Was that something that you found out later, or was that something that was discussed? Like,
Yeah,
did Ace?
no. I didn't get involved in that. But I mean, apparently, Ace told me fairly recently that Paul had said to him, Ace, if you need any help with your record, I'll give you a hand, And so he was like very sort of adamant that he wanted to do his thing. And it was a big surprise that
Interesting.
his record did so well. It did the best out of all of them. And
Right.
so I mean, I didn't know. I was just like, I'm here, I'm playing with Ace, and that's as far as my thought process went.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that solo record propelled Ace. So after that, on Dynasty and Unmasked, Ace has more songs than Gene on Dynasty, so, meaning vocal songs. So I think they were surprised at his success from that record, with a big part to do with you as well. But I think they had to take notice after that and say, you're right. You're just as big of a lead singer, writer as Gene and Paul are. So we're going to give you as many songs as those guys now.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Again, I don't know, but they certainly must have elevated his standing, because it was such a great record.
Right. Which again, probably, eventually leads to the breakup because Ace might realize, okay, I could probably do this on my own. And that's, hence where Frehley's Comet, branches off too.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, the only thing that I could say is I wish that they had included Ace in some of these last things. I think it would have been great for the band to have even Ace and Peter, just the four of them, play a song, at the Garden or something like that. I remember seeing them in the Garden in '79 or something. It was amazing. It was incredible.
Yeah, we're in that same boat. We're with you.
Yeah,
Just,
I think the Kiss community in general, I think, feels like even if it didn't turn out that they played a song together, they should have all been there to celebrate that last moment.
Say goodbye.
Mhm.
And to not include Ace and Peter and, some of the other guys, Bruce and maybe even Vinny and Tommy, Eric were obviously there, to not include the whole Kiss family. And, you're part of that family as well. I know.
I was thinking I could have gone up and played I Was Made for Loving You or something.
Right. It would, and honestly, I think the fans would have lost their minds.
Oh,
You're a
yeah,
big
I
part
think
of
that'd
that,
be cool. Yeah.
that Kiss legacy.
Yeah, no, they never asked me. I think, again, I'm fine with it, but
Well, it's funny.
It crossed my mind,
Go
like, wait a second, it's open to all, friends and family,
Sure. So now are you okay? So a few years back, Kiss put out a cartoon called Kiss Meets Scooby-Doo. Are you aware of this?
No.
Okay, we were hoping you weren't. And the reason why we wanted to show you this was in the cartoon. Can you see this picture, Joey?
Yeah.
Okay, if you look here, this book right here represents all past members of Kiss. So it was part of the story. So here is Jendell, that's Ace. Then down below you have Peter and you have Bruce Kulick and Mark St. John. But up here in the top, I had to call a buddy and go, "What's that?" And somebody said, "It's a fig."
Yeah.
So you were included in this thing. It's like they gave you a nod, like saying, "Yeah, this was a member. This was,
But so who made this book?
So it's a cartoon series. It was a cartoon movie.
Okay.
And the movie base, it's all Kiss superhero stuff.
This little shot of this book, this is a scene from the movie where they're looking at the history of Kiss together, the Scooby-Doo gang, and this is all the members of Kiss being represented by their symbols. And a lot of Kiss people didn't know what that symbol was up top there that Joe was talking about, but it's for you. It's a fig.
Yeah, I see that.
They included you as a member of the family. It was an honor.
So nice. Yeah.
I love the fact that you said it's cool.
Yeah.
It is. It's one of those things where when I heard that, when it was my friend, he said it's a fig. I was like, that is awesome.
Yeah.
That I don't know how much Kiss had to do with this, or was it a fan that drew it in and said, "We're putting Anton in here." Either way, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
So I'd love to get into, I know it's hard to remember all the tracks you've done over the years with the Kiss records and some of the Ace records, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on maybe your top 5, whether they're the songs that you played on via Kiss records or Ace records, or even, I'm a drummer, so the drum tracks. What are some of the best tracks you feel like that came out that you did with either Kiss or Ace?
Well,
obviously the big one everyone talks about "Rip It Out." We know "Rip It Out."
Rip It Out.
Yeah.
Number one, and
of course.
And almost any song on that record, would be cool. The thing is, I went back and listened a little bit, but I forgot to listen to the Comet records. So I don't know. I mean, Breakout was a cool one.
I'm coming after you. I say our love is overdue. I'm at the breaking point. No one understands.
And that was reminiscent of Rip It Out too. Was that a conscious choice? With the drum breakdown in the middle, it's very new version of Rip It Out.
Yeah, there's a little hints of that in there for sure. It is.
For me as a drummer, I got to tell you, the breakdown and breakout, no pun intended, is more difficult for me to play than the one in Rip It Out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a more technical run.
Yeah. Well, that one fill, that's also with the two pedals for me.
Yeah.
But and it was off the top of my head, so it was sort of easy, but if you trying to figure out what it is, it sounds a little weird sometimes. But I like 10,000 volts.
Yeah.
Because to me it like kind of bookends like a whole section of stuff. Now I really like Shandy. So and drums are cool on that too. There's like one like big fill and all that. And I Was Made for Loving You just because it was so different, and I like Is That You as well. Paul's song on Unmasked, I think it is. I think that sounds really cool, but I need to go back. I like Hard Times is a nice drum track, and but I need to go back and listen to the Comet stuff again include that because I just haven't listened to it.
But it's funny, all the tracks you name, I just wrote them down, every one of them. And again, I don't know if this is a conscious thing, but they each have a really signature drum part in them. Obviously Rip It Out has the middle section we talked about, and so does Breakout. But then, Shandy, I know it's simple, but it has that drum intro, that little high tom drum intro that's so signature to that song, where if you hear that intro, especially if you're a Kiss fan, you know what's coming. And there's not a lot of drum songs out there. We mentioned We're Not Going to Take It earlier, that have a signature drum part that it's a drum beat from that song. Melodic instruments have the melody, so it's hard to create those drum parts, but you're such a master at it. Even I Was Made for Loving You, it has the big drum fill middle breakdown section. Is this stuff that you're consciously trying to place in songs, or it just happens?
Pretty much just happened, I mean, the only thing I could think of with Shandy was, I think I might have on purpose started that fill on the the eighth note.
Yeah.
And because if you don't know where the beat starts, and it sounds like one, dun, 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 and that makes it weird. But if it's one, da, da, da,
right,
then it's, so I might have consciously done something like that. But other than that, I mean, I'm just trying to play what's right for the song as much as I can.
No, your drum parts are, and this is a huge compliment. You're one of my favorite drummers of all time, that they're not just drum parts. They're very musical. They're very melodic. They're hummable. The Hard Times drum part that we talked about, that's the part you're singing when that song's on. everyone who's anyone, whether you're a drummer, a bass player, or just a regular person, you're tapping and humming that drum part. So
That's so great. Thanks. I mean, I feel that way like about Ringo. It's like, all his fills, they are so orchestral or something,
Yeah.
like, and everybody knows them because but thanks, that I'm glad that you feel that way.
Yeah, oh man, I have a few drummer friends. I have a friend, my buddy Doug, who's my oldest friend. He actually played drums at a Super Bowl in place of Phil Collins while Phil Collins was singing. I told him you were going to be on. He was blown away that Anton's going to be on the show. Drummer at my music school, George, I told him, oh, we're going to talk to Anton. Oh, for real, you're going to talk to him? It's just like, it's amazing, and not only the music that you participated in, but being, every night we were able to turn on the TV and there you were sitting back there in such a legendary band for so many years.
That was really a life changer for me.
Yeah. I mean, you can't even list the amount of amazing artists that you played with, where sometimes you would think that they would have their own band, but you guys played the music for so many things and they were just so excited. I can't wait to tell them how great this went and how,
Say hi to them for me.
Absolutely.
Anton, when you're on the Letterman show, it was a great segue, Joe. A lot of the other late night talk shows, like Joe said, big bands would just come on and play, or artists would come on and play with their bands. But the late night band, it seemed 9 out of 10 times, just had the main artist or the singer play with you guys.
Well, it was more in the beginning of the show, like when we moved to CBS. And then around that time, the alternative bands were coming in, and I always felt like, the bands, I'm sure they want to play together,
right?
But the show would kind of try and have it so that we did it, and we did it a lot, but we did it a lot more in the beginning than towards the latter part of the show. But I mean, it was great. I got to play with, I can't even remember all the people, but I mean, I do remember like Miles Davis and James Brown and Springsteen and all that. It was Townsend.
Wow.
Stevie Winwood. Yeah. It was crazy. It really was.
When those artists came on, did you do a little rehearsal and sound check? Was there a certain arrangement that they sent you guys, whether it was charts, whether it was just a recording? How did you get on the same page?
Yeah, well, you had to come in knowing the song. So they would give us a song. And I would, in the beginning, I would just try and memorize it. But I found out that if you just chart the song out, whether it's your own shorthand or real notation, by the time you finish charting it out, you can just play it.
You know it, right?
And so we would come in and we would rehearse, but not for long, just a few times, and then we had to go out and do it. And the thing is, you had to make the artist feel really comfortable. And I would play and I would watch the artist like visibly relax into it, like he felt like the band had his back, and once they relax, then it's fine. Then you can do it, When we played with Sammy Davis in Las Vegas, he didn't want to rehearse at all. And the producer, said, like, you got to do it. We have to see the cameras and all that. He very reluctantly did it, but he was ready to just come on and just play it live with us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Legendary career.
That's cool. Yeah.
Anton,
it is.
We can't thank you enough for being here, taking the time.
Thank you.
Well, you sound great on the record, by the way. The Cosmic Heart is cool. I love those pop songs and all the songs that you were on.
Coming from you, that is an absolute honor. Thank you so much. Again, I was honored that you got to make the demo tracks that I laid down 100 times better, and you did. And it was a pleasure to be on the same record as you. Are you kidding? It was an honor.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's a great record. Yeah.
Do you like the way the whole record turned out?
Yeah, I do. I do. I think it's a really great record.
Good. Well, thank you very much for coming on. We completely appreciate it. I look forward to the next Ace record and you getting on there and playing with Joey some more. That's always just
That would
so
be great.
cool.
If that happens, it'd be cool.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
And we know. Are you on tour right now with anybody?
No, I'm going to a little bit around America and Europe in September and October with the Oz. This guitarist I was talking about before, and Jimmy Haslip on bass. So it's going to be a really good kind of trio, electric jazz kind of thing.
Cool.
Incredible.
Yeah. So thank you very much for talking to me now. I was
All right.
honored to be on. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye, Anton.
Thanks. See you later. All right.
Bye-bye.
See you, Joey.